All right, welcome back to the Maturity Project. I am your host, Chad Everbroshears, and I've been joined by Misty and Ed, but I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get into today's topics.
Hi, my name is Misty, and I own Misty Coaches, LLC. I'm a fitness coach and holistic health coach.
Beautiful. Ed?
Hello, I'm Ed, and Ed. I'm actually a marketer, also personal trainer, and on my way to becoming a holistic coach as well.
Cool.
I love it. See, that's the thing that I love about this. You guys are so dynamic in the way you think. You know, so what we were just talking about before we hit record is about, like, look, it's Sunday. There are things that we can be doing. You got two people in here that are, well, 40-ish. You know, me, my mid-40s, and then Misty with where she falls on the radar of that. And then we've got, Ed, and today's his birthday, right?
24th.
So 24 years on this planet. I was talking about how he is a very, seems like what we would describe as an old soul.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
So we were talking there, and we're talking also about how, Misty's son is going through some things as far as, his ability to be mature for his age. So you guys want to throw in on that a little bit and pick that conversation back up?
Yeah, I think I was just saying, I was relating to Ed when he said that he started feeling as if he needed to become more mature even at 18 years old. And my son is 20. And he would come to me even at 18 and say, Mom, why are people so stupid? I feel like I'm so much more mature than them. And he is. I noticed it. And that's what I noticed in you.
That happens a lot here in the U.S. Because I'm able to have more open conversations with people from Latin America because of the struggles that people go through. Mm-hmm. And they're forced to grow quicker. Here, the privilege that we have is that we can be done our entire lives and still live a good life.
Very true.
Yeah, it's a great point. And so, Ed, give us a little bit more about you and how long you lived in Honduras and how long you've been in the States.
So for me, I came here when I was 7, and then I've been going back and forth. And I'm one of the few privileged ones who I went to private school, but I also happen to live next to really poor people. Like, we're talking about people that would live in tiny wooden houses, similar to huts, and they would have 12 kids. And I've also lived with people in middle class, and I've also been with people that have a lot of money in Honduras, and I'm like, okay, there's a big contrast here. What's going on? And I would see the difference in how they think, and the poorer they are, the earlier they start working, and they start developing maturity in other areas. So they might not have financial maturity, but they have more of a community maturity, and also they're forced, for example, my dad, he started working when he was 6.
Wow.
My mom, she would work and go to high school, and then she got married at 19. Yeah. And here you see kids, 28-year-old kids, that don't want to leave their parents' house or want to take responsibility. Mm-hmm. Before in Latin America, well, it's still happening. In Latin America, you got to take responsibility at an early age. I did not have that opportunity or a disadvantage. I've been forcing myself to do that because I don't think it's fair for me to have this privileged life of coming to the U.S. And being an American citizen, because that's a really hard thing to get. And not mature and not be grateful for what I have.
Yeah, I love that. I see that often speaking with people from any other country. I mean, you see the just the gratitude to be in a place like America, to be more free, but then also realizing they do seem to be more mature. They seem to have matured much younger.
Yeah. Just
because of what they had to go through.
Yeah, and that's something that I hear. And what resonates with this is how people say that Americans are lazy and arrogant, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't make a statement like that without having a background on it. So what is it that makes them, what can make you seem arrogant? Well, you have something great and you're taking advantage of it. You're not showing it that you actually appreciate it. But you sit like you have this great sense of pride or something about you that you're really riding on your forefathers' work and effort. though you haven't made those accomplishments, you're just coasting on their success. So that could be one part of why people say things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is that we're lazy. Well, yeah, when you come up from another country, you don't have the social nets, you don't have the structure and support that we have been able to afford ourselves.
Right.
So then you got it like, well, we don't have Social Security to fall back on. What does
Right.
that mean? You need to be more financially intelligent and mature. You have to be able to preserve your body as best as possible, because a broken body doesn't earn as much usually, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you don't have the security systems that we have, to support people, what I mean by security systems. So that's a great thing to consider. So, and this is why I love having these kind of conversations with people like you guys, because you're dynamic thinkers. And I know that Ed doesn't come from a place of any negative whenever he says something like he does. He has a great degree of appreciation for what he's accomplished and where he is and what he's doing. Where you have other people that come in and they may have that, almost aggression towards natural born citizens.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just an interesting dichotomy of the way that we kind of
Yeah.
have this.
But
Yeah.
that changes though as you go deeper into deeper generations. For example, I'm a first generation. My mom is also first generation because I was born in Honduras, and then I came here. And then if, for example, my kids, and then the kids of my kids, they become more accustomed to the culture here, and that's when you start losing people. And they become more, how would you say it? They take everything for granted more.
Right.
Because here stuff is so easy to get.
Do they call that assimilation, when they assimilate with the culture?
Yeah.
I think that's what they call it, when they just become a part of the American culture, just like us, they take it for granted.
Yeah, but they are also building on a broken system because they do not understand the financial system. Like my parents do not understand the financial systems here.
Right.
And then let's say they have kids and the kids are not people that are willing to learn and explore. They're going to be building stuff on broken systems, and that cycle's going to repeat, but they're also getting accustomed to taking everything for granted because they see other Americans doing that same stuff. So it's just a cycle that needs to be broken, and it happens with anyone, white, black people, Hispanic people. It happens, but what I've seen is that Caucasian people have a better system, and they keep repeating that system, even though there's a lot of them that take all the stuff that their parents have done for granted.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I would agree with that. And then maybe not, we don't do it necessarily on purpose, but we're kind of falling into that just because of the way that we've been raised,
Yeah.
We take it for granted, but we don't really mean to take it. I mean, when we're reminded of it, we don't take it for granted. I mean, oftentimes when I'm reminded of how great I have it, I think, wow, I really do. And when I get reminded, when I travel to other countries, I've been to Honduras. I know what it's like there. That's where my dad used to be stationed there. I've been to countries in the world that are not, that are third world countries. So when you travel like that, you actually get to
see the difference.
Yeah, you see, wow, we have it really good. But it's hard to know that when you live here, day in and day out.
It's the fishbowl experience, right?
Yeah.
Like the fish doesn't realize it's in water until it's taken out, and then it knows it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll have hardships in our life that occur that remind us that we do have good things, or that we had it good. We go through those crises where something major happens, our health is challenged, or relationship ends, or whatever it is. But we don't have, on the hierarchy of needs, survival is, we have an upgraded concept of survival in a lot of instances, because we do have a government we can fall back on to help us. But none of that comes free, even though we say, hey, you're actually going to get money from this. It comes at a cost. Because if you have taken away your autonomy and your independence, because your independence is attached to your autonomy, if you take that away, what are you losing?
Right.
So you have, obviously you're a United States citizen, you've been
Mhm.
here, you're generationally United States citizen, so your
Yeah.
son also. You saying your son's an old soul.
Yeah.
What would you say as far as an observation, what gives you that position to think about it?
He just, it's funny because when I was younger, that's how I was described. So I wonder if it's kind of genetic, or if he kind of got that from, or if it was taught through me trying to teach him how to maybe think of things from a more mature point of view. I always, when as I was raising him, I always looked at things like, okay, how will the world perceive this, but then also how, what could this possibly lead to in the future, and let's look at, what are the repercussions of your actions right now, but down the road, and even at maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, we were talking about things like that. This may seem good or feel good right now, but what's the long term? What's the end? And so I think wisdom and maturity has a lot to do with how you think about things in the long term. What are the effects of this down the road? So I think I taught that to my son in a way, but also like he just seems to pick up on things that are naturally something that I don't see young men pick up on until they're 35 or 40. The other day he felt like crap, and he had been invited to go and help someone move furniture, and this woman is like in her 80s and she couldn't move any of it, and another friend of his had invited him, and he felt horrible, and I said, why don't you call and just say that you can't go? And he goes, Mom, that's not the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, normally a 20-year-old, they would have called right away and said, hey dude, I just don't feel like it, So I mean, that's only one small example but he said, that's not what a man does, Mom,
Mm-hmm.
And so like, and I get, that at that age men are starting to realize what a man should and shouldn't do, but I mean, I still see a lot of 25, 30-year-old men that don't behave like, like they. But he also picks up on emotional things, like he can sense when I'm sad or when I might need something, or he also he seems to know like when I need a hug or when but a lot of things that I don't see young men, and I have a lot of other parents. I know a lot of other parents with children that are around the same age, and they don't behave the way that he does. So I kind of get little cues in that way, and I might be a little bit biased because he's my son,
Well, but it still sounds to me like he does have those qualities that stand out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like to me, I agree with you.
Yeah.
A lot of 20-something-year-old men are going to want to stay at home and play video games.
Yeah.
Or,
And he's
whatever.
not interested in drinking. He doesn't like, it's just things that normal 20-year-olds, they'd be out having a blast. And I mean, he has a blast, but he's not out partying all night. And
Yeah.
so little things like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I like it.
Yeah.
And thanks for adding some more to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the conversation that we were having about, what we wanted to talk about today is the influence of social media, because it's a great starting point for us. Is that what we're talking about is just some of the differences in our cultures, but we're also talking about what influences us to get to where we are, right? And the United States is leading the world in a lot of things that are fashionable, a lot of things in technology, both in the medical side as well as our technology devices and things like that. So getting to the point of what's influencing the next generation. So to me, technology has outpaced our ability to mature. But this is something I
100%.
realized in the 90s.
Yeah.
And now it's like more people are waking up to that realization. So, this is a conversation or a topic that was actually you proposed, Steve, that we should talk about. I'm like, absolutely, this is such a robust and deep conversation that I know that you and Ed have so much of that value to really bring to the listeners as well as to me.
Yeah,
And,
there's so much here.
Yeah.
There's so much that we could talk about. I think the first thing that I think of when I think of social media as it relates to maturity is just the overwhelming kind of push for beauty and being fit and being perfect and editing and Photoshop and all that, which we had a while back, but now it's just to the extreme, and filters and things like that. And I mean, I don't think anyone, we'll get into AI later, I know, and not knowing what's real and fake, but I mean, I think there's this portrayal of of perfection that I see on social media. So that's kind of where my biggest concern is especially as a woman, for young women. But I know it happens to men too. I know you guys have to be the same as us. Like we look at this, this perfect body of a woman, and she has no flaws, and she has the perfect hair, and I think a lot of, if you're not mature yet, if you're a young woman, if you're a teenager, you may look at that and go, and it's been proven, they look at that and they go, wow, I could never live up to that, and it's causing all types of, it's been proven, and psychologists can tell you that the rates of anxiety, depression, suicide, and all of those things have gone up since the internet, and especially since Instagram and Facebook became more popular. But they said that I saw a statistic the other day that between, I think Instagram gained its biggest popularity in 2010. Am I correct? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But
Instagram?
between, yeah. But I think they said that year, within 2 years of that, the suicide rate amongst young girls went up 4 times.
Mm.
I mean, there's something to that.
Yeah. Well, trends will always tell us the truth. It's just a lot of us don't know to look back, or we don't know how to decipher what we're looking at. And we have something now we say, well, hey, when this was introduced, this is what has come out of it. You know, so that's a great place to look at it. And why? Why would that increase the suicidal ideations in young women? Because young men and young women, their attempts,
Right.
you know, are pretty similar when it comes to statistics on the attempts of suicide. But boys are more likely to commit it, and women are more likely to attempt it.
Right, and
Yeah.
and they said that those numbers became closer as Instagram, because young women became a lot more. And the guy that wrote this book, I think it's called The Coddling of the American Mind, and it was all about social media and as it relates to young people. It's a fantastic book. I recommend it to anybody who wants to. Very popular author too. He wrote a couple other really good books. But he talks about how it's always been young boys committing, and that the rates were always stayed the same, but then the girls are now catching up by actually committing suicide. So
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
yeah. So that's, I think, where as a female, I worry about young women. Of course, I worry about young men. I'm raising a boy. Well, I've raised a boy. He's 20. But being in the fitness industry, I also see where I'll have women come into me and say, you know, they'll actually show you pictures and say, I want to look like this. I want to, can you show me how to look like this girl on Instagram? Like, why not just be the best that you can be? So, but then again, I was raised without social media, and as I think you were too. So this is where, and the only difference I can see from when I was a teenager to now is the social media, you know? And I just really see the changes in our culture and how it's just, I don't know how we should handle that.
Yeah. Well, and to add a little bit more to it as well, if you guys don't mind, is, you know, so being raised in the 80s, so born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, by the way, 79, so don't over-age me here, people. I'll hold my 45 for now. Yeah, and I mean my age. So, yeah, so what we had is we also had both parents entering into the workforce in the 80s, which meant less parental oversight and more external of the family, like daycare, and then the offset from daycare to the public school system for a lot of people, where the expectation is that they raise the kids. You know, so when we had both parents working in the workforce, that also brought in the workforce challenges, issues, interpersonal challenges, things like that. And it caused a different shift in the way that we knew to parent. So, and then we had this where, you know, I remember as a kid going, man, I wish there was a TV in the car when we drive long distances.
Right.
You know, because like, oh, it'd be so great to watch cartoons or whatever, right? Give me dinosaurs and not the mama, you know. How many people are going to remember that?
I know, we
Ed's
say
like,
it
what is
ourselves.
that?
I'm lost.
Oh, we got to show him that. After this, we have to show him dinosaurs.
But we had some generational changes too that outpaced our maturity, because we were distracted by other things. We focused on our finance and potential, possibly business, because we had a lot of people starting their own businesses from Reaganomics, right? We had this change in our economy because we just went through our own recession and damn near depression in the 70s. It wasn't a depression, but it was close.
Right.
You know, we only allowed to buy so much gas, and you had all these problems when Carter was in office. So we had those challenges. And then we have like, okay, well, I can't raise my kids the way that my parents did, because HRS was sending out the hotline on television where kids could just call and report their parents for abuse. And the parents were like, I don't know what to do here. And the government's like, this is part of the problem I have with some of the issues with government.
Yeah.
Good intentions, bad outcomes.
Yeah.
Right? Because the long-term consequences of their culture are suffering. Don't spank your kid. That could be borderline abuse, or it could be abuse, and we're going to put you in jail and take your kids away.
Yeah.
So, and then that was the 90s is marked with that. And then social media started to become something. You know, that was
So that kind of what you're saying is that kind of led to this age of Now that we're all on the internet, now we're in social media, but parents aren't able to parent the way that started when parents weren't able to parent the way that they shouldn't be able to. And now social media has just created a whole new issue. Even if they wanted to parent the way that they wanted to, you can't get away from it.
No,
So.
the smartphone was a great convenience, but like it's like back in the day they'd be like, honey, read your book on the long trip.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's, where's your tablet?
Yeah.
Here,
it's, pacify yourself.
And then wonder why our kids are having attention deficit disorders.
Mm-hmm.
We're letting them just go by whatever their interests are, and they have all this stimuli coming in.
Yeah.
And they have nothing to, keep them anchored on something specific other than whatever's the flashy thing that keeps their attention.
Mm-hmm.
So since we also have the age gap, Ed, is there anything you want to contribute to that part? Because there's some curiosities I have from your experiences that you kind of grew up with a cell phone in hand, right? Born with one.
I actually got mine when I was 12.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I did have.
He is an old soul.
The thing is, we did not have access to like smartphones in Honduras. Like for us, getting a Samsung, that's not like. For example, right now we have the iPhone 16. It would be a privilege still. Right now in Honduras to get an iPhone 11, iPhone 12. Like, I mean, yeah, most people have iPhones now because it's so normal now to have an iPhone, but they're not gonna have the last iPhone unless you're like wealthy.
Right.
Yeah. So if I post myself with an iPhone there, you're like, oh, you have an iPhone? That's cool. Like it's like, oh wow, you have an iPhone. Mm-hmm. Like that is not a normal thing.
Yeah.
The first smartphone that I have was not even a smartphone, and I was 12. It was one of those you have the screen and then you open it and then the keyboard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then my sister got her BlackBerry back in I was in 5th, 6th grade, so she was 13, 14.
Wow. Yeah.
So we were able to play outside and develop that sense of community, and still happens a lot in Latin America. Like, not a lot of people, well now, I think they do get phones pretty quickly because they're getting cheaper, and it's really easy to just send them a phone from here. But before, it wasn't a thing. We would have like the little Nokias.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this actually speaks to the reason that he is as mature as he is. I mean, and that he's the, kind of the old soul that we talk about is because, the parents that I know that have been able to keep the cell phones out of their children's hands until they're 12, and in that book, The Coddling of the American Mind, he talks about if you can hold it till 15 or 16, you're the best. It's the best. But it's difficult to do that in America. But he talks about just developmentally for the human brain, if you could keep social media and keep the things that are on that phone and on the internet away from the bad things away from your children until 15 or 16, that they would actually be okay, that they would actually be able to decipher what they should and shouldn't be looking at, and what might be the best use of their time. Yeah. So by default, he got that by just living where he lived. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which can, as you're saying, it contributes to like what kind of maturity that person has when they grow up. Because like what comes to mind also is like right now we have such a significant fear culture when it comes to our children. Like can't go play outside, can't do things like that. What's your alternatives? Kids not going to want to stay inside and just stare at the walls. They're going to want to have access to things that are going to give them their permissions to have something right now, instant gratification. I'm going to go on my subscription services like Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and I'm going to watch the show I want to watch. I'm going to do it right now. Instead of, no, you need to wait till 8 p.m. and then your show comes on.
Right.
Then you got to fill your day in with something. What are you going to do? Mom wants you out of her hair. Go play outside.
Right.
Right. And we're so concerned with predation, and I get it. Because who wants their child preyed on by somebody who wants something from them you don't want, right? Yeah. I get it. I'm completely there too. But we almost have over-insulated our kids in the concept of fear and taken away something so incredibly beneficial. Yeah. Which is, like, I played with the kids in the neighborhood. Right. We didn't have, I remember getting my mom's watch and wearing it around because I didn't have a watch. Yeah. My dad wore his, because we didn't come from a wealthy family. We were somewhere in the middle class, but we didn't have a bunch of the extra stuff we have now in the middle class. Mm-hmm.
All the gadgets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what you have in these other countries, you'll have like, it's the hardship creates greatness, right? Because you get somebody like Ed, that's like, he's 24 years old, and he sit here and speaks with us to a level of insight and maturity that we could also liken to wisdom
Mm-hmm.
from somebody that you wouldn't expect 24-year-olds to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say, hey, hold the tablet, honey, and get back to your show, because I just want to drive and I'm overstimulated. My tolerance and attention span is so short because I'm so overwhelmed with all the adult stresses.
Mm-hmm.
Please get out of my hair. And it's like this thing that I feel like I'm doing something better for you.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, we've got this that's now in our kids' face.
Right.
So,
Right.
and-
I mean, there's good and bad to every single. I mean, this is just like when I'd like to talk about AI later, but there's a lot of great things that AI can do. Just like when the internet came about, there was a lot of beautiful things that the internet afforded us. And it was this open doorway to learning. Same thing with social media. There can be this good side and this terrible side.
Right.
And I mean, I think maturity is meeting somewhere in the middle and figuring out what is the good, what is the bad, and how do I ration this out to myself to where it's not too much on one side, or
It's monitoring and managing the pendulum.
Right.
Right. So something else that comes to mind is, so back whenever I was young, hitting 18-ish, you used to have to enter your date of birth to go on the porn sites.
Yeah.
Now you just go and check out one of the social medias and you can have access to it. And to me, it's like we've let things slip that were there with a very good intention. And we've given our kids unfettered access to things that, again, back to it's outpaced our ability to our ability to mature. So previous generations, and now we have the youth that are learning things that are even before their hormonal stages kick in.
Yeah.
Where it's natural to start exploring, and now it's part of almost like a pop culture to them.
Well, I don't know if you saw the recent article just a few days ago. Pornhub is actually going to be cutting off all access to Florida because Florida doesn't want to go along with their age restriction rules, which I think is great that we should have to put in an ID if we want to watch porn.
Oh,
That's all they're asking them to do,
Yep.
And Pornhub just basically said, well, then we won't be in Florida then,
Pornhub is they've got a lot of stuff going on right now too.
Yeah.
And they may be facing a lot of trouble because of the people that are in some of those videos are known to be underage.
Yeah.
You
can
so
tell.
There's a lot there,
Yeah.
even though it's not directly connected, but it's still connected.
Yeah.
But so we have that as our ability to mature is outpaced by our technology's advancements, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how could we right this ship is one question. And then the other is, how are they getting to our kids currently?
Mm-hmm.
Because our kids are a major market and we don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first one is, how could we right this ship?
Mm.
Oh.
That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and just in my opinion, would be that a lot more regulations on what is age appropriate for certain, especially when we're trying to target and market products. Even though I know there are regulations, and I want you to talk more about that too. But I just think that, but also this is going to be teaching on the parent side too. How much screen time is appropriate screen time, because the longer they're on, the more they're going to see things that aren't, and how do we keep them from going to places that they shouldn't even be seeing online and getting marketed things that, here's a perfect example, my 12-year-old niece is into skincare. And I mean anti-aging skincare. She's being targeted.
Oh,
She's
wow.
shown me some of the ads, and these are some of the things that I started using in my 40s to try to, turn back the hands of time or fight aging. And she started asking me, I asked her for Christmas, on her Christmas list, what do you want, Michaela? And she's like, oh, I want this, and this, and I'm like, this is stuff that I would buy, but it's actually too expensive for me to buy, And so here's my 12-year-old niece thinking that she needs anti-aging skincare. Why is this even being targeted on a 12-year-old? And what is she looking at? That's the first thing I thought, was where are you looking online that this would even be in your radar? I didn't even think about makeup at 12 years old, but let alone skincare. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
yeah. What are your
She
thoughts?
shouldn't be targeted at all. Like,
Yeah.
she is under age. I think they have a regulation in which you can't target people under 18, or it might be 13. I gotta check that again. But, like, in order, for example, Facebook, you need to be over 13 to create a Facebook account.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I created my Facebook when I was 11, and I lied, and I said I was born in the 90s.
That's what most people do, though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all you
And-
have to do is put in the correct birthday or the incorrect birthday.
Yeah, but the targeting wasn't as good when I created Facebook. So I was never, and I also used a desktop because I didn't have a smartphone, and I didn't get any ads. And if I did, they weren't as targeted. Now we've improved a lot of data. Like we've gathered a lot of data. So I mean, she might be online. She might be 18.
But that's what I was thinking. Or she is going and looking at things that she shouldn't be. She's on sites that she shouldn't be going to.
So
Yeah.
Or she could be going on to things that actually just have an algorithm and it doesn't necessarily allow for, like, it could be something that slips past, right?
Mhm.
Like, so if you're 12 but they're allowed to target at 13, it's when the video comes up, they're just playing something general instead of specific and targeted. So, like, you can't sell it. Like a targeted grouping as a 12-year-old, then the marketing company can't say, "Hell, we're going to target 12-year-olds in this marketing campaign. We're going to target 13-year-olds if that's the level."
I think
right?
it's 18 at the
Yeah.
moment. I gotta double
Yeah.
check that. But this is how it works. I mean, she's a female. Like, I already know how to target her. She's a female. Online, she's probably 18. Like, that's the age. And she's probably gonna like makeup, fashion, and then maybe an artist. Okay, let me send her this. Maybe she likes it. Oh, she engaged with it. That was 15 seconds. Okay, then the algorithm is going to feed her more.
More
and
of
then
that.
we also use the likes that, or like whatever she subscribed to. Oh, and then, okay, she subscribed to, let's say, I don't know, a makeup artist. Let's say she subscribed to Misti coaches. Misti coaches likes this type of people. Okay, let's feed her this stuff, and then that's how it builds. It just tests
Oh,
to see what she
interesting.
engages in. For example, me at 18, my hormone levels are crazy. Most men, they're gonna see in their feeds at 18, women. They're gonna see women dancing because it gets our engagement, and it's just an emotional trigger. We're like, oh, women. And then our entire feed is just going to be women.
Yeah.
Women. So what I do, because it still happens, because I'm a man, and even though I don't engage that much, they're going to try to feed me that to test it, and then I just click not interested.
Yeah.
And then if it starts happening again, I click not interested.
Yeah.
That way it just feeds me memes.
I mean, I've started doing that myself on all my. I told him that all my social media is curated now because I started doing that. I started not liking and unfollowing the things that didn't suit where I'm wanting to go. But that's maturity, right? That's where you a 12-year-old isn't necessarily going to go, oh no, I'm not interested in that. They're gonna click on it and go, oh, what is this? Is this something that I need?
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that I'm missing out on? FOMO, like fear of missing out. That is something that's a serious thing for young people because they think, oh, well, if everybody else has it, I have to have it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And other things that come to mind about it too is like, okay, well, one is how incredible could it be to use the Maturity Project's 8 different areas as a way of figuring out what kind of content people really are going to do well with, but do it with an ethical direction.
Right.
So like ethical capitalism versus the unethical version, which is, I don't care, just raise the bottom line. The ethical side is what's the long-term consequences to our society by implementing this strategy.
Right.
Is they really look at lifetime strategies versus short-term.
Right.
That's a big thing. And for me, I'm an ethical capitalist in that way. Like, I want to see the best outcomes for as many people as possible, but I don't want to enable anybody in the process. So, but the 8 areas would be a great way of saying, okay, because like with that, you mentioned sexuality. 18 years old, hormones are like doing like crazy. They've hijacked the human being, right?
And they know that about young men. So automatically, I mean, it doesn't take too much to guess that that's what men are seeing.
And then if you know
But I've never see that in my Never, ever have I seen that in my social media feed.
No,
So that's the difference between being a male and a female.
So I've compared it with my girlfriend, like our feeds, and I'm like, okay, I'm not using social media that often right now. This was a few months ago when I didn't have Instagram on my phone because I did a cleanse and I deleted my old social media, created a new one, and it was feeding me women. I'm like, I don't engage with this that much, and then I see her feed and it's showing fashion.
Cooking
movie,
and
all that stuff,
all
and
the
then
things.
you see men, it's gonna be women.
Exactly. It's crazy.
And what does that do to our society?
Right.
Right? Because it's conditioning people. You know, and then it's like, okay, well, as an 18-year-old male, you could sit there and be like, oh my God, look at her, she's so hot. Then you get the pickup artist direction. You get the people that are selling how to date properly. So there's an entire industry ready to support that particular stage of their life.
Yeah.
But what you get with that also is you also see a lot of those young men find these porn sites.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to learn the concepts of a relationship through either the person that's teaching them. It could be like an Andrew Tate, which I'm not a hater on Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
But you know, it could be him, and now he's teaching men that you need to be this uber alpha.
Right.
And most people, you need to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, well, there's the same. There's women out there teaching women, oh, men aren't going to like you if you're not this feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to teach femininity. Come on. We're all certain different levels of masculine and feminine, you know. But I see what you're saying there. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
No, it's perfectly fine. It's a great contribution to it.
Yeah. I think with you know this as being in marketing, they're triggering the dopamine circuits, right?
Oh,
whatever. I mean, the book Dopamine Nation is a fantastic book as well, and she's a psychiatrist for years that dealt with people with addiction to everything: sex, gambling, shopping, all that. And it's all, if you look at the fMRI scans of the brain, whenever they're looking at any of those things, anything that could spark, but it's all hitting that same area of the brain where the dopamine is being hit. So it's just, they know that that's going to happen for men when you just keep putting dancing women up on the screen, and they know for women it's like, oh, makeup, skincare,
Mm-hmm.
They know what hits our dopamine circuits. So if we're mature enough to know that, I think that's the first step.
What I would add to that too is that there's an environment that gets created for the marketing to work, right? And either the marketing is hijacking the environment or the environment is created by the marketing. So it's one or the other, or they both contribute to each other. But when you have the girls that are focusing on their beauties, focusing on the effeminate things or whatever that their focal points are, right? Fashion, those things, it creates a trajectory for the way that they see the world. And how their role fits, and they're trying to fit their avatar, and their avatar is the idol that's being presented to them, like Caitlyn Jenner or somebody like that.
Yeah.
So you've got this person, and then you have, okay, well, who else do I need? Because I'll get bored of that person if I watch them too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people's personalities, especially when they're made from a marketing perspective, is there's too superficial to really understand the human being. It's more of what's the most rewarding piece of it. Like we experience it as we grow the channel as well, because we're more in depth about the fulfillment and the experience of a full human being versus what's the thing that's the low-hanging fruit, that's the sweetness of it. Mm-hmm. Because that'll run out anyway. That's why you get a lot of problems when you get growth like that, and we can talk about that more in marketing. But why does it take so much effort to become the next Joe Rogan kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And that guy's a very versatile person. There's other personalities. I just go to him because he's one of the more popular ones that I can kind of
everyone knows.
Yeah, because Alex Hormozy's another great one that
he's
he's expanded. He's no longer a fitness guy. He's a business guy, and he talks about that. So, and on the male side of things, it's like, okay, well, you have what landscape is being provided because of the marketing world. Well, if you have challenges in relationships because our parents are so caught up with trying to make their own relationships work, that they'll go on and they're like, I don't know, and they abandon their child and the process of becoming an adult in that area. So they're like, okay, well, I guess this is the way relationships are supposed to work. This is why peers are going through. This is what I've been learning on Pornhub or whatever pornography site they go to. This is what I've been learning in the sense that I need to satisfy specific urges, and this is giving me the reward sequences or whatever that is. And then they get into, okay, well, now what? Then you've got alcohol is going to start targeting them. Like we just found out with Bud Light, was it a year and a half ago roughly, when they hired Dylan Mulvaney to be their spokesperson. And what they did is they didn't hire Dylan Mulvaney because Dylan Mulvaney is, portrays himself to be, cross, whatever it is, the technical term. It's not trans because Dylan Mulvaney does not claim to be a woman.
Right.
Does claim, but still holds the Dylan Mulvaney's his name.
Right.
But portrays himself as a woman and then does the whole thing. If you looked at Dylan Mulvaney's history on social media, started off trying to do comedy, animal handling, like a nature commentator. It went through until it got to, then it came out as gay and then came out as trans. But then you see like it then became viral. Dylan Mulvaney is really effective in the under 21 category of like the viewership. TikTok superstar, that kind of thing. Bud Light hired him because of the target of the audience.
Such a bad move.
Yeah, but it was a horrible move. But they're trying to get those that are going to be graduating into 21 to drink their beer.
Yeah, but
They're priming them, but you're not.
That's terrible.
Right, but they can't
That's
directly.
like candy cigarettes.
But they can't directly
kids.
hire. They can't directly target under 21 for alcohol.
Right, but that's just,
But if they get a spokesperson for somebody under 21
They knew
that
what they were
crosses
doing.
over, they knew what they were
yeah,
doing.
just like when they created, like I said, the candy cigarettes, and kids thought they were smoking like their parents were, but it's candy.
Yep,
I mean,
Joe
why
Camel,
would you? Yeah,
right? You have
Yeah.
candy cigarettes and you have a cartoon character on cigarettes.
they knew they were priming those kids for smoking way before they were ever even old enough.
There's no harm in smoking. What are you
No,
talking
not at all.
alcohol,
terrible.
drinking alcohol when you're pregnant, there's no problem with
I mean,
that.
it's terrible. It's
you go back far enough.
yeah.
So,
But that
from,
is, I mean, they were
please.
betting on the future, but at the same time, it's like not a lot of people in my generation, especially men, are going to agree with the extreme side. It's mostly women. And I'm like, dude,
So then they're priming young women to drink then.
most likely.
Yeah.
But beer is most people, like, most women drink wine, and if they do drink beer, they go for a lighter version. Like
Yeah.
citrus or
Local crafts. And,
Yeah.
True.
that'll
it's
be like
you're
citrus.
fancier when it comes
Right.
to that. They're more
Yeah.
picky. When it comes to men, let me get a beer, let me drink it. Oh, it tastes good, tastes strong,
Yeah.
nice. And a lot of men are gonna do that. It doesn't matter if they're from my generation or not. And I mean, maybe in California that would have worked, but in Florida, that's
No.
not gonna work.
No.
There's a bunch of people that live in farms or that are being raised the traditional way, and they're like the extremist side is just a minority, and they were targeting the popular minority.
Right.
So
Yeah.
They were trying to project what the future will look like based off of trends. And when you have mega companies, and I'll throw this in here too to kind of add a little more substance to the direction that businesses will take. When you have these mega conglomerate companies like BlackRock, they have, how much stuff are they involved in? Like they say
Right.
they own all of these. Basically the reason why they say they own all those is how much stock do they have in each one of them. They don't own the company.
No.
They own the company through stock shares. So when they say, well, they own Tesla, they don't own Tesla. Elon Musk owns Tesla. His stockholders own their percentages. They
Right.
own percentage of. So if BlackRock says, hey, we're going to go this direction in our company or business build, then you have these other companies, which by the way, when we talk about Bud Light is it's Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch.
Mm-hmm.
They are a very large alcohol company.
Yeah.
They're their own conglomerate, right? They have
Yeah.
so many companies that they own.
Mm-hmm.
They're small compared to BlackRock. They are tiny compared to BlackRock.
Yeah.
They are almost a non-player in the world when it comes to how big BlackRock is. They're one of the largest companies on the entire planet, and it's, as it is. So you have that gives a trajectory for what businesses need to do in order to stay relevant in the future. If the future is trans, then you need to make yourself relevant to the future of trans.
Right. It was
If the
more
future
of
is
a-
women, then you make yourself relevant to women. It's not like, people sitting there twiddling their thumbs figuring out some maniacal evil plan. Now, I'm not saying those people don't exist, but
it's
it's mostly business follows the opportunity that could produce outcome that they want.
Right.
but that's short-term profit because I mean, if we go to biology and the reproduction of like people, you need the traditional ways to do that. I mean, I consider myself not traditional, but I do understand that in order for something to work, you gotta think long term. Yeah, you are trying to create a short term profit with the current trends, but you pretty much shot yourself in the foot when it comes to long term, because men now, which are the usual drinkers, are not gonna drink that anymore because it's related to something that a lot of straight men don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you were going for a niche market, which is trans women, all that, but a lady's gonna prefer a martini than a Bud Light.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
and
that makes sense.
Bud Light's typically the I just got off of work, going construction worker. You know, it's a cheap beer, it's consistent, I can drink it, it's good. You know,
Yeah.
Bud Light would be more of also guys that are, if they're drinking Bud Light, it's either because that's what they kind of drank when they were teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or they're looking at just at least keeping track of their calories to a degree, but
Mhm.
not so driven by vanity, but that's just a background of at least it's a light.
Yeah.
Versus
yeah.
drinking a Bush, you know, like a Bud.
It's like I care, but I don't care that much. you
Yes,
know?
right? And the Budweiser's the full flavor. So what it was is, and I agree, it was a horrible decision for them to do it, but they didn't know because they're setting trends, and they would rather set a trend and win. It's like gambling, or you let somebody else set the trend and you try to get better at it than they did.
Yeah.
So innovators don't always win.
True. And I
It's
mean,
the people that follow the innovator that can do a lot. But in that world, it's like how many other companies are going to do it? Jack Daniels actually did one before Budweiser, but it wasn't trans. It was drag queens
Mhm.
and Jack Daniels. So it really didn't hit hard, and it didn't really hit their market necessarily in a negative way by any comparison to Bud Light. Bud Light, just forget it. Target also went through its own.
Nike did one with the Instagram influencer. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. I can't think of his name right now. Him or her, or it was a trans person.
Well,
And Nike
which-
got a lot of flack for it.
I haven't seen that one.
This was within just the last couple of years. You'll have to look it up. But a lot of people loved it, but most people hated it. And they were like, "What are you trying to do here, Nike?"
Oh,
you know?
Well, I think it was Dylan Mulvaney. As
It
well.
might have been. Yeah, it might have
It was
been.
Women of the Year, something like that, or
I
like
think it was.
Yeah.
Women in Sport. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Dylan Mulvaney, and that's
To
another
me,
topic.
I mean, it just looks like a lot of people are trying to jump on that bandwagon because it's just this is the popular thing to do right now. But once it becomes the norm,
Yeah.
who cares? You know?
So one I would say might have more success with that's Jaguar.
Yeah.
Because Jaguar, I'm not buying a Jaguar, right?
Right.
You're likely not. You're likely not.
Right.
I don't know what a
Right.
Jaguar
And it's
is.
not. what's that?
Jaguar is a car.
A car. It's an auto make. Yeah, it's an auto manufacturer, Jaguar. They came
Oh,
out
Jaguar,
and they did this
okay.
ridiculous commercial. The commercial has nothing to do with their vehicles. It is very artsy. It's got a lot of color. You got men in dresses. You got doing all these things. But if you think about it, what population of the United States is going to be the most supportive of that? And
Right.
It would be the affluent that are already the people that purchase Jaguar. So
Right.
it's almost a redundant commercial because they didn't need to make that.
Right.
You know, so they might get away with it. But the people like Budweiser and Bud Light, their people are the construction workers that don't want to think about, you know, it's a nightmare to them to go out single and then they find out they've been dancing with a guy in a dress.
Right.
You know, it's a nightmare to those guys typically.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, the guys that would be, you know, like, I don't know, really what popular drinks the gay community would drink. You know, so
Right. They're
yeah,
not drinking Bud Light.
that's not going to be their
Right,
alcohol choice
yeah.
typically.
Yeah.
So, but they took a gamble and they lost big, you know, and
Yeah.
even the people that are Republican and conservative type influencers like Kid Rock and Dana White and who else? Even Donald Trump Jr. got in there and said, you know what, we can fix this brand. It still wasn't even successful. They made such an error that even some of the most popular conservatives or conservative leaning in the industry could not fix the damage that Dylan Mulvaney did to Bud Light. So
Yeah.
it's pretty
That
interesting.
was a big gamble. 'Cause,
Hopefully
I mean,
they learned from that mistake, failing forward, right?
Right, yeah.
As if Bud Light even
Which-
needs to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, just say who you are, Bud Light. You know,
Yes.
stay in your lane.
Right. Well,
You know,
you have
sometimes
a
if you're that
concrete-
good, you don't need any of that.
Well, really, what it is they could they could create another category that's specific to LGBTQ.
Well, yeah, Anheuser-Busch makes so many products. Why didn't they take their Smirnoff Ice or something like that?
That could have been one.
And yeah, I mean, market that too, you know.
I mean, they gamble with the straight man's pride, and you don't. I mean, for most people, for most men, you don't want your pride to be messed with, and
Yeah.
they did that,
Exactly.
and they lost market. Like,
Yeah.
marketing is about gambling. You gotta test, but you don't test with the man's pride. You can test with what's the name of that cup, the tall cup that just like it looks like this, but it's
Food? Oh,
Stanley.
Stanley.
Mhm.
Like it was targeted towards men, but it wasn't as successful. And then they changed the colors, and then they made it all.
Every woman has one now.
That's
yeah.
a smart gamble. They tested a new market and it exploded. But you weren't messing with no one's pride there.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Not
if you
at
look
all.
at the demographic studies, it'd be a simple answer, right? Because that's what you do with marketing. You look at the demographic studies and you try to figure out what's going to be the next thing that makes it stand out, makes it go viral.
Right.
Now, this could also be that in the marketing world, and please, this is your world, right? Think Disney's gotten into it. Think about all the companies that have been marketing themselves or changing their content to try to capture that the dragon they're pursuing, right? The you know, like in, you know, doing heroin is always chasing the dragon, right? Well, they're chasing their own version of this heroin, right? This idea that it's going to give them the next market value that's going to make them stand out. Harley Davidson did it, you know. Cardwell jackets, I think that's what it's called, Cardwell. But if you look at the demographic studies, who's going to be likely to carrying a case of Bud Light out to their vehicle? Would it be somebody who lives in the city, somebody who lives in the suburbs, or somebody who lives in rural country areas? Which one's most likely to grab that case of Bud Light prior
country
to Dylan Mulvaney?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it was the person that they had put in charge of marketing, as best that I understand from the way that they were telling us, college grad, came out with this equity and inclusion, slight diversity, or that slant from college. They put her in charge, and then the company is so big that they're like, whatever, as long just raise the bottom line. That's what we care about. We have other things to worry about. You were put in charge for a reason. We trust you to do the job. Now, after the fact, it's what came out of it. And then what did they do to fix it? I think they actually made a second attempt also. After a couple of months, they tried it again, and it was like, this is an absolute failure. And she was supposedly on leave with pay or something. I forget what the hell they did with her. So we see this stuff happening. In the marketing world, could you give like a devil's advocate for why you would want to do that, coming from the marketing world, from your experience?
I mean, if you wanted to do that, like target the wrong audience, it's just, you gotta test. But there's some things that you gotta understand about human psychology if you want to test first. And I mean, most people are not mature to, oh yeah, they're just marketing to trans now. I'm still gonna drink it. But there's a lot of men that don't like to even be close to people that are gay.
Yeah.
Like there's still men that are like that. And then you took it to another level in which it's a trans man, it's not just a gay man. You're gonna lose a lot of people there. But
you also almost could lose a complete political side too.
Yeah.
You know, there are more people on one side that are a lot more against that.
Oh yeah.
You know.
So I mean, you can take a gamble, and I would have taken a gamble if I knew that men would be more open to that. But I don't see a way. Why would I? A way of doing that and see it work? It just doesn't make sense to me.
If you had to steel man an argument for that, though, if you had to play devil's advocate and steel man it, how would you do it to make that, like, you're coming into the Maturity Project LLC, right? Big conglomerate company, and you're going to give me a pitch on why you should be able to implement a marketing strategy that would potentially have that kind of outcome. How would you convince me of taking that on if you're an outside marketing consultant? or a company that's wanting to become our exclusive marketing company?
So if I wanted to use Don Mulvaney and target, like pick a market and sell it, would be college students, and I would try to run a campaign with not a lot of budget and target areas like California where there's a lot of liberals. Also, I mean, most universities, so primarily college students, and would like tell the board that, oh yeah, younger generations are more open to this, and yeah, it could have worked better. So that's a way that I would sell it. It's target college students, you're more open, and try to frame it differently, make it a bit fancier or a bit more like maybe create a trend. I don't know. It's a really hard question because it requires a lot of planning to see if it could work.
So if you don't mind, I'll ask a couple of questions just as if they're like, I know less about marketing, right? By far, much less than you do. But let's act like I know even less, right? How can you narrow down a focus? Can you market to, what's the most narrow market or the method to get to the smallest denominator in a marketing campaign? Could you just pick like a city to market? Could you pick a town?
Yeah.
Could you pick?
You can do zip
like
codes.
a mile radius, right?
Right.
Like on Facebook, you can say I want to just within the 33710 area code.
Like similar to the old marketing.
zip code. Yeah.
Yeah, similar to the old marketing, like the postal service, you can go and actually buy specific areas to have your stuff delivered to a zip code, to a specific earning in the household, that kind of thing.
Yep. You can do zip codes and narrow it too much that is impossible to target someone, because you can do zip codes and then you can buy an interest. So they're interested in dancing. Okay, let me add that to this. They like handles. Okay, let me add that. So now we have an audience of 10 people because it was just one zip code, and then I expand that to Tampa, and now now I have 150,000 people that might buy, and out of those 150,000, I get 100 buyers, and then I put them through a funnel. So yeah, you can play around.
So how would you get that data? Like, how would you get data to say I'm interested in, drinking Bud Light and working out? How would you get that data from me?
Oh, and Facebook already has it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you would go. Facebook would collect that data. How do they do it?
So mainly through testing. Like first, people created pages for businesses. People liked it. So you became the product, and that's how they get their information. They also have ways to track your history through their own social medias and also from outside sources. That's why, for example, there was a big scandal with Cambridge Analytica, and also Trump was part of that scandal because he did use information to target voters that were not have not decided back in 2016. So it was a big thing, and that's why Mark Zuckerberg got into a lot of trouble because there were so many unethical ways to get information from people, and there still are so many, but they're hidden. They're not gonna let you know because it's gonna suffer their advertising is gonna suffer. There's not gonna be as targeted because it's so easy to target you. Like I do know that you like hats. You're wearing Under Armour, and you're wearing that watch. Okay, you just gave me a lot of information on how to target you, and there might be 40 chats in your area depending on where you live, and then let me expand that. We can also do that. And let's say I run a campaign, it's a blind campaign. I get information from people that engage from that. Facebook gets a lot of information from my campaign, and then I create a lookalike audience, which I just clone chat 1,000 times, and then you're going to target chats.
So what I'm also hearing here, correct me if I'm wrong, Facebook is like the casino in its own way, right? Because you pay Facebook to run your campaign. The data goes through Facebook back to you. They keep all data that you paid to get started.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can take that and package it to sell it to other advertisers off of the money you paid me to run if I were Facebook.
Yeah.
So now, what about click through or not click through, but click on, like following links, scroll time whenever you're going through social media, where you stop the screen,
Oh, they track
like
that.
eye time, that kind of things, or what do they call it? Is it called eye time? What is that?
What's that?
It's what do they call that when the category that they sell that by? This is, to explain how they collected that data. This type of advertisement or this type of content was in front of this person. Screen time. How long that was on the screen?
Like view length. They track view length.
Okay.
So it would be, they divided, I think, 30%, 60%, 70%, 90%, and 100%.
Okay.
The higher your engagement on that, the better the lead. And then if you also clicked on a link, you become a better lead, and the system starts optimizing for people that had a great engagement, and they also buy. So if you bought, then you're just gonna try to copy you. Like, they're gonna clone you.
Okay.
You have a persona online. So when you were talking about TikTok, that you don't trust TikTok, they're already doing that. Like,
Yeah.
TikTok is just a more efficient machine because it's not as centralized as Facebook.
It's
Facebook,
also the outsider.
yeah.
So you're saying by cloning me, they mean like if they figure out, I'm a mid-40s woman that likes this type of makeup and I live in this city with this type of humidity and this temperature and all this, that they're going to try to find other people
they're Misties.
that are like me.
Yeah.
Exactly, but by the data that they've collected
Yeah.
online. And that's who they'll target.
Yeah.
Because obviously if I like that kind of stuff, they're going to like that
Yep,
kind of
and I
stuff.
think that's also
Wow.
a bad thing because it creates bubbles.
Wow.
So that's why you see a lot of people that disagree and at the same time agree, but at the same time they're on extremes and they're just so trapped in their own bubble that if you pop it, there's going to be an outrage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I don't want to get too political here.
Well, politics will be one we talk about anyway. It's a good
Yeah, we're
lead-in.
going to have to. It is a good lead-in. Yeah, it is.
All right. For example, let's say the LGBTQ. They have their own community. They have their own bubble. People that follow Andrew Tate, they have their own bubble, and then it creates a feedback loop in which that becomes the entire feed, and they're not exposed to other things because it's also beneficial for other companies to keep them in that mental space because it's easier to sell.
In psychology, they call that like confirmation bias.
Yep.
Like it just keep you in that same little. So you basically are confirmed by you keep seeing the same thing. So it must be what I should be using or what I should be doing. Yeah.
So that's pretty much what's going on right now. Is we're all trapped in our own bubble. That happens to people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and it creates something. It has created something that did not happen before because before here in the U.S. we only had a few channels. Everyone watched the same thing, same ads, same everything. Now it's different groups, different subcultures, and no one agrees with each other, and that's pretty much creating division, especially here in the U.S. because companies want to keep you in that bubble because it's profitable.
Yep, it's unethical capitalism because of the long-term consequences is that they've created their own ecosystem that we're all occupying, but we're occupying the smaller piece of it, based off of where we fit.
Mm-hmm.
Because we derive authority based off of consistency and whoever speaks in the authoritative position. So each one of these echo chambers is what they are, bubbles and echo chambers. You'll have their own rise to whoever's the representative of that. Right, so we have like Jordan Peterson has his own that now he's with Daily Wires. You have Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and he's collecting his people in a very specific and targeted way because he's at the higher end of that entire bubble. He's one of the highest level authorities that could be in there, right? Then you have the other conservative commentators, and you can see them fighting for who's going to be the one that goes to the top. Stephen Crowder is in fights with Ben Shapiro or Jeremy Boring, which is his partner. So you have these people that are going at it. But if you look at the United States as an ecosystem, now you've got the irresponsibility of profit-centric companies that they don't care about anything other than raise the bottom line. And last year cannot be how much money we make this year. We have to make more. It's the insanity of that. So with it, as I mentioned before, and I don't want to ask the question again, and then we'll ask the question one more time at the end, if you guys can help me remember this one, but what can we do with this? Like, one, we want to open up an awareness, but what could we do? Because our maturity is being challenged here, and we're actually, to me, we're making people more simple and lowering our maturity and making us more irrational.
Well, in my opinion, I think that just limiting, knowing limiting your own screen time on these sites where you know you're going to be targeted. Like I've had to do it myself, where I know they're throwing these ads at me that are targeted towards me. But and when I said a minute ago, and you kind of laughed about living in this city with this type of humidity, but I got a makeup ad the other day that said, "Oh, you live in sunny, hot South Florida. It's humidity. This is an anti-humidity makeup." Like, they know exactly what I'm looking for. Anti-aging. Like, I'm like, it's scary. Anyway, I don't, part of how I deal with it, and I'm not claiming to be I never claim to be the most mature, but I'm trying to mature, is to limit my time in spaces like that where I could be hit with it. So how can we teach younger people to do that? How can we, but then also I think there just needs to be an awareness of when I am online and I am enjoying my time online, that, okay, I could curate my feed by saying I'm not interested in that ad, like he said, not interested until you start seeing things that you actually are. But then again, you could be shooting yourself in the foot there, because then they're going to send you even more targeted, so, but just stopping yourself and saying, okay, this is the time of day. Well, let's also look at, just like with judges in the morning, they're more likely to find someone not guilty or to give someone less time. If you're on social media in the morning, you may be more apt to resist those things, or maybe you're more willing to buy something in the morning. I know when I'm tired and it's 9 o'clock at night, I better not pick up that phone, because I'll be like, oh, maybe I need that, So
Could make my day better.
I think there's personal responsibility here. We cannot expect, we cannot expect the social media to these platforms. We cannot expect these big companies to do it for us. Their interest is making money, and how can I get that dopamine hit from these people? So on a personal level, like I've always said, these things should be taught in school. These things are targeting you guys. Even when they're 10 years old, we need to teach our kids that they're being targeted all the time. You get to choose what you want to engage in and what you want to spend your money on and what's worth it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we could get the maturity project in schools.
That would be fantastic, Chad. I think it needs to be.
The other is home ec. Remember home ec?
Mm-hmm.
It's been phased out. As far as I know, they phased that out.
Home economics.
Right, home economics, man.
All the things to learn about the home. Cleaning and cooking and budget. I think my home ec class had like budgeting and, just budgeting for groceries
cooking,
and things like that.
baking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Laundry.
Middle school for me. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
middle school, and then it would split.
It was middle school for me too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So if
they don't find that valuable anymore.
So you introduce things like this into that, make it more relevant, bring it back. Maturity project, we'll get you teaching the marketing side of it.
Yeah.
We'll have you doing with some of the recipes. I know you've got that on your channel too. You're awesome with it, right? Plus, you're very intelligent. We can get into a lot of other subjects there.
Yeah.
So, Ed, what would you say we could do? Again, I'm liking the question because I want to strategically ask it to see if it changes through the conversation.
I just wanted to touch on self-image as well, because we've created echo chambers already. So pretty much whatever, if you are driven by insecurity, we've made it easier to stay in that loop, like in that how do you call it, hamster wheel. It's gonna be hard for you to get out of that, especially if you're young, because you're not mature enough to know what's better, and then it's just gonna repeat over and over. For example, I don't know if you've heard of I'm gonna stay with the man side because I understand it better. Looks maxing, that's a thing, like boys trying to maximize the way they look, and also like red pill, black pill, blue pill, all that stuff. It's all driven by insecurity. Men are trying to learn how to be men on a broken system, and they're being driven by insecurity, and they're going on that hamster wheel over and over, and it's really hard to get out of that, because we just talked about ads, but we did not talk about the AI and the algorithm that it's doing it automatically. and it's gonna keep you there.
Yeah.
It's not a person. It's not the marketing advertisement system is the machine that they created, so they keep you in that area, and it's automatic. Like probably the CEO or a lot of people that are leading the social media teams do not know that that's happening a lot. There's suicidal circles still in social media, and they keep you in that loop because social media is the reflection of where your mind's at. That's how I put it, and it's pretty much a way of us, kind of like how we draw and to portray our feelings, or how we sing. It's just that on steroids. It's our entire mind online. So if you go to social media right now and you look at your feed, they're trying to put stuff in your mind, but you already have something set. This is what you look at, all that. This is what you're interested in, and they're gonna keep you in that loop. And yeah, you might get for some reason you looked at a Bud Light advertisement for for 2 seconds more than usual, and now they try to target you with that, and they're gonna remove it right away because you did not engage with that. Mm-hmm. But let's say when it comes to women, there's a lot of eating disorders. There's a lot of like self-image problems. Because I used to train these 2 girls who did not know how to talk well to themselves, and I'm like, okay, you're starting this journey. I want you to be kind and not think on how you're gonna look. Enjoy how you look right now, and then you're just gonna give you some extra stuff. But you're already beautiful the way you are. But it's really hard for trainers to get them out of that if on social media they're seeing standards that are not even reachable for the people that are posting that. Because you're gonna see people that are Instagram pretty, and you see them in real life, and you're like, holy schmoly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. We hired a girl like that with my last contract, the gym I was at, and they're like, yeah, she's a social media influencer. She's got this many people. Sure enough, she had all those people. But when you watch her videos, like, that's not the same person. Who the hell is that?
Right?
Yeah.
It was her, but filtered like crazy, all of this, and you meet her in person, you're like, you're not who you are in your channel.
Yeah.
You really seem like such a different person just by looks alone. And then the behavior and everything else, like, that's not how you represent yourself.
Right.
At all.
Right.
So, a couple of things though. You said broken system. Can you expand on that a little bit more? I love that term, by the way, and I don't know if that's a technical term for it or if it's yours, but I love it, and if it's not technical, let's make it.
All right, so for me, when I say broken system, is whatever we've been given by society and we've not developed. Because we probably were given something that was broken, which is a lack of maturity in a specific area based on where we are from. Like, for example, I have broken systems when it comes to probably finances compared to the average American, because my background is Honduran, and we're not great with money there. Like, there's a reason we have a communist president right now. But I'm trying to fix that system. But it's really hard to get out of that broken system or broken cycle because I'm on social media feeding that pattern over and over, feeding that part of my psyche and just reinforcing it. It's how Paul Chek calls facilitation. Like, that's how you say it, right?
Facilitation?
Yeah.
Facilitation.
Yeah. So we're just facilitating that over and over. It's kind of like training a muscle. You've never trained your glute medius. Well, let's make that easier for you. But if you never created for example, I was born, because I'm bow-legged, so I'm training my glute medius. I'm trying to activate it as well, because I tend to overcompensate with my IT van and all of that. So I'm training that. I'm trying to facilitate a new framework in my body. That's how it works in social media. It's all related. It's retraining the psyche to stick to that broken system. It's you were given that, you're reinforcing it, and you're not changing it. So
right, there has to be something that comes in that breaks that cycle, that says, no, this has been wrong all this time. Right. How do we make it different?
Yeah, it's a pattern interrupt. And there's a lot of companies trying to do that, especially on phones. Opal is one of those, which is trying to control your screen time and trying to tell you that this is not enough, and they target a lot of people randomly to do pattern interrupt. They're like, oh, you're wasting these many hours
Right.
on social media. So there are companies trying to do that.
I mean, even these watches will tell you, hey, you've been sitting for 2 hours. You never sit for 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's great that there are companies out there that are doing, and I love that as an idea for stopping. Like, how can we, I mean, certainly pattern interruption is a great, it would be a great way to kind of...
so how do we do that with self-image, and how do we do that with the main problem that we have with masculinity here in the U.S.?
Yeah.
It's how do we make men feel like men again, and how do we feel women appreciated and not built on the resentment of modern feminism?
Right.
That feminism is
a broken system, if you ask me. I mean, that started in some back in the 80s when women started going back to work, and then there's a lot that could be said about feminism, but that's just my opinion. It's been taken too far. There is a lot. There's when you talk about broken systems, I mean, we've over exaggerated something, and then we're so in belief of that we don't want to let that go. Like I know people that wouldn't let that go even if you showed them that you were able to prove to them that was the wrong way. They're going to believe that is the only way, and that somehow men have been against us and that have brought us down, and that have that the patriarchy has been against us this whole time, which isn't true. But a lot of feminists will speak that way, and they really believe that. So how do you break that type of thinking?
Or
long term,
if we were to maybe fix it, right? So broken system, fixed system. Right, and it's a beautiful conversation too, because that directly is graphed off of that. Yes, we have broken systems all over the place. I love the term, and the explanation is brilliant, because it puts it into a thinking system we can do something with, versus make it a problem, then it's a problem, then it's a problem, then it's a problem, and it's a self-perpetuating problem that people that know how to make a fix really just keeps it in place, and then you end up with those echo chambers that are really hard to break free of. You said another term, and I don't know if it was a misspeech or not, but I like it, and that was echo chamber.
Yeah.
So echo chamber and an eco chamber, and I could see
that was a misspeak.
But I like about it because it got me going. Because it's like, okay, well, if we have all of these echo chambers, they're pretty much what the bubbles are, right? They're just echo chambers.
Yeah.
But it's an economic echo chamber that has its value, and there are so many people that want that to stay in place.
Yeah.
They want the hyper-masculine to stay in place. They want
Just
the
like
hyper-feminine to stay in place. They want you can't do anything on your own. Don't launch. Do not launch. Government will take care of you. So you have the communism, socialism chambers, right? That are like, no, that's a government influence there, because there's a particular political party that will benefit if people shift that direction. Yeah. You fail to launch from your family, the state's the next one to take care of you. So, but that creates all these bubbles, but they all work for something, and that would be the echo chambers. Like, that's the way I see it. As soon as you said, I'm like, damn, I don't think that's a term, but I love it. We're gonna make it one.
Yeah.
Right? So that's brilliant, by the way. And it's like another, if you ever doubt your contribution, come back to these moments, man, because this is what we talk about.
You got some great points, Ed, for sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a few things. What I've experienced, right? You can't target under 13, right, or whatever age is. We'll get that.
Yeah,
right?
I have to double check.
Yeah, so you can't target under a certain age. But here's an experience that I've had, and Misty and I mentioned it earlier before we started recording. In the morning, I'll get my son ready, right? Like, I get him up, he says bye to his mother, we both say bye to her, and then I put him in his playroom, and then I'll put on, there's a particular person on YouTube that I like, and he's engaging, and my son really does. He engages with him well, and I can see he's learning specific things. So I'm like, okay, I'll set that over here, put it on, and I'm gonna go and prepare us breakfast. And then I'll hear something. Well, my son loves to yell for me when a commercial comes on. Because he just doesn't want to watch a commercial. He's got that for me. I hate commercials, by the way. I hate them. So as soon as it comes on, I'll do what I can. And sometimes I'm almost ridiculous about it, where if a commercial's on, I want to click it. Get this thing out of here. So he'll yell for me. And I went in one morning he had yelled for me a couple weeks ago, and I realized this. I remember commercials when I was a kid. You watch cartoons, and you have a series of commercials. You get a cartoon. The show's on for 8 to 10 minutes, and you get another 5 minutes worth of commercials or whatever timelines. I go in to go and hit this button because he yelled for me, and it's a cartoon. And I'm like, okay, well, I put it on a person, and he's doing stuff, and there's this cartoon on. So why is this on? And then I realized it had been playing now for a little while because it took me a few minutes to get to his playroom. And I'm like, what is this? And it looks like a regular cartoon. But on the bottom right, it's a skip. Instead of like go to the next video, it's skip like it does when it advertises, And I'm like, what the heck? And I look at it, and it's I believe it was a 30-minute commercial. It was a cartoon. So if they can't directly target your kid, well, what about putting the mechanisms to get the kid to want certain things without the direct call to action or whatever it is that would be the thing, right? Because if they can't target them, they're building an entire world in these commercials to get the kid to go to the shelf when they go to the store to go get stuff. So to me, it's also a surprise.
Yeah.
My commercials, the long ones are 3 minutes. The ones that may come up on my phone, which I skip it after as soon as I can possibly skip it, usually 5 seconds.
Same.
Whatever.
I'm ready to skip.
Get it out of here. I don't want it. Oh, so that's an interesting thing because they are targeted. They're able to get past whatever restrictions they have. They're still able to get there.
Oh yeah, they're gonna target you.
Yeah.
They're gonna target the parent, and that's easy to do. Also, they're gonna put stuff in movies, kids' movies. Okay, let me set this right here.
Yeah.
All right, it's subliminal, but the kid's gonna look at that and it's gonna be like, and it happens to adults too. For example, marketing can work just not for brands; it can work for ways of behaving. So okay, kids now can play with, like boys can play with dolls and girls with cars, and they're gonna put the kids to like Peppa Pig. They're gonna put Peppa to play with cars, and kids are gonna assimilate that and are gonna think it's the normal thing to do. Like that's really easy to do. It's more about getting fancy with it, trying to like get around the limitations, and especially if, I mean, there's also the platforms that they're using. So they know you're a dad. Why? Because he is probably watching kids show on an adult account, like so they're gonna be like, okay, and the kid is watching it on the television, not the mobile device like laptop, cell phone. Okay, so we're gonna play these ads on this because kids tend to watch it on the TV and not on the mobile device. So that's really easy to do. It's more about getting the data first. Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's his mom's account, and she's over 18, obviously. So, I could see how they could actually pick that. It's just interesting to me how that algorithm is formed because it's cradle to grave. If you really look at it, it's like they want to have as much of a profile for you as they possibly can create.
Oh yeah.
And for different devices too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've noticed it just along as I've aged and used YouTube and how it knows how old I am. It knows what I'm going to be looking towards certain years of my life and things like that. So it's pretty fascinating how well it's figured us out. And then, as we transition into talking about AI, I feel like that's even scarier because that's going to learn us better than any algorithm that we already have. They're already using AI. They've been using AI for years to target us, I believe. We're only just now learning, I think, what AI can do. I think it's been being used for a while. So
it's too smart. It's too powerful of a tool to just showed up. It's just consumer side just showed up, or at least that we could get into AI now.
And it's better designed to target women too.
Yeah.
Because women are more likely to shop.
Right.
And men. Like men do big purchases, women do tiny purchases more often.
A lot of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's a great point too.
It is.
Which is, it leads into other things. Now, they're more beneficial to have a family unit in that scenario though. Because if the man makes the bigger purchases, but the woman makes a lot of the other purchases, it's usually because she's the buyer of the home, does grocery shopping, things like that, in the more traditional setup. So
I just kind of thought of something I wanted to ask you about this. What is it? There's a search engine out there, and I think it's also there's a VPN. You could use a VPN, but like let's say you didn't want to get targeted as much. What is the search engine called that you can use that won't target you with ads, or that you can pay to not be targeted? I mean, have you heard of this?
I mean,
it's not DuckDuckGo, is it?
it used to
It
be
might be
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo.
Yeah.
But you can use
I've heard
Opera.
of it. Okay.
Opera is the browser, and it has a VPN built in.
Okay.
Oh.
So you
And
can,
that
you
just
can use
takes
that.
out all the targeting, all the ad targeting, or do you get to choose?
It will remove some.
Okay.
But if you log on, if you are logged onto the social media app, they already has your information. So
Right.
there's no way
So, Just
Work around
because,
that.
yeah. So it's not going to work around what's on that actual platform.
Yeah. What it's gonna do though, it's let's say you have a VPN and instead of the U.S., it's saying that you're in Malaysia. Malaysia companies are gonna target you,
Oh,
so you might
okay.
get Malaysian ads.
Which might be better because we can't.
Oh, well, here's something I love about that. One time I was in one of the grocery stores local, and I went up and pushed a button really fast. So I activated the screen, and then I tapped again on another button, and it put me in as Spanish. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to back out. I already know the steps I'm going to need to take. It's all simple purchase through the self-checkout, which I'm not a big fan of that anyway. Because I got to tell you, I always get the worst customer service when I'm at self-checkout. I'm horrible about myself. And I'm certainly not going to write a good review about me in cashiering. So I don't, basically what I'm saying, I don't recommend using me as your cashier or your bagger. But anyway, I put that in, I went all the way through the transaction. Next thing I know, before that it didn't exist. But at that moment, moving forward, still to this day, and this has been about a year and a half now, I want to say, roughly, I still get Spanish ads.
Oh gosh.
I get Portuguese ads.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
But you see, I don't select anything that would be any indicator that anybody collecting my data would believe that I'm Spanish.
Yeah.
It's just that one time. I haven't done it since. I don't select those. I skip it as fast as possible. It's actually made it easier on me whenever I get commercials that are in Spanish because I just laugh at them.
Yeah.
I'm like, you so wasted your money. I'm not buying from any of these companies anyway. It's not even landing in the subconscious. I don't care about your product. I'm less likely to buy your product because you showed up on my phone advertising to me. And then it's Spanish, and I'm like, you wasted your money. God, did you waste your money?
Yeah, it's probably
You
a
know.
bad advertiser, or it's just that. 'Cause
Well, the data's there now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be more than one advertiser, I'm sure. You know, because it shows up in all kinds of places. It's
Yeah,
funny
but-
to me.
But
So-
that is not as invasive as how they are to women. Like, you know, the period tracking apps?
Oh,
They
yeah.
get you that way.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
And then,
yes.
and the thing is, and I don't know how much you guys know about this, but I can tell you, as a woman, that we have, and now they've even written books about when we should work out at certain times of the month, what we should eat, and how we should consume carbohydrates, just based on our hormones, our progesterone, estrogen, and cortisol levels. And those apps are now using targeting that, using that data to target us. We know at this time of the month that you are craving chocolate, so here's the, or we know that you shouldn't be eating this at this time of the month. So it's really sinister, if you ask me.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
The way it occurs to me is, one, on the business side of it, it's absolutely brilliant.
it is.
And it's so business savvy and smart, but it's incredibly unethical, and it's a significant violation of your privacy. But because it's still outpaced our ability to mature, we don't have the right kind of legislation to stop these companies from doing it. Then again, I'm also not a big government guy. I'm not a libertarian, but I can understand them, and I can also have some compassion for the anarchists. Because I'm like, yeah, I get it. Big business, big government, I'm no fan. Too many regulations. But it's outpaced our ability to mature to it. So how do we arm our future? And I'll ask this question again at the end because we still have to get through the politics side of it. Because our time's running short, so we probably have like 15 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So with that, you guys good to transition into the politics?
Yeah,
sure,
let's do it.
So these are like the forbiddens, right? They say don't talk about religion, sex, or politics.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know if I missed that gene.
Never
that
on
tells
the
you
maturity project.
I'm under and I hate politics.
Yeah.
we all hate politics,
Oh,
but
God.
it has to be addressed, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so whenever it comes to politics, here's the thing is that, look, we're already immature because, one, we've already discussed, right, with echo chambers. We're sitting so long in these bubbles that are contributory to companies that want us there, which they're incentivized to be there. We've got, because there's thoughts popping up in my head, but I'm like, don't talk about that, it's irrelevant right now, but damn, it's a good one. But that'll be with Brian when I can get him in here. It's about child support and the system there. But we don't realize exactly, like, we're just consuming social media. We're just consuming what we access with our devices. And the majority of what we use now is our smartphones. Mm-hmm. Our computers are used less. It's really gotten to that. It's smartphones and whatever infotainment we get in our cars. Which is typically smartphone accessed. So we've outpaced our ability to mature to it. What are we going to do with this stuff, right? So now we get into, we've got our passionate positions. When we run into opposition, it seems like the opposition is so aggressively against us that we have been prepared for a fight that hasn't even occurred yet. Mm-hmm. And we have two people that are so fired up, so ready to grab their pitchforks and baseball bats, and torches to go after the other person. And we are locked in our argument and we're not connecting with the other person.
Right.
Because that's where we bleed over because of our common interest that our echo chambers give us. You've seen the sphere things where they got the circle this way, and they have that intersection where they all come together. Then you get those bleed-ins. Where you're like, oh, I'm this political side, or I'm that political side. Mm-hmm. So your guys' experience with that, because we got feminism in there, we've got masculinity in there, or well, it's actually masculinity, but the way they like to term it is chauvinism. So you got these things that are going on, right? What would you say is your experience, and then we'll get into what we can possibly do about it, or how we can talk about the future.
My experience with politics on social media is, let's just say that I'm from a place where most of my family is of a different belief system and of a very, very strongly different belief system than me. I'm actually very open to new ideas. I've changed my mind on things over the years based on some really good other persons showing me the way, or showing me something that I didn't know. So my mind is always open. I'm never have been, I'm Republican, so I'm only going to vote Republican. I might as well just check that box all the way down and not even look at who I'm voting for. But that's, to be honest with you, and most of my family and the people that I know from where I'm from are like that. So it's very difficult to be on social media when you have so many people that follow you and follow what you're doing, but yet you see what they're posting because they're following you and they're liking your stuff, so I'm seeing what they're posting, and it is so completely opposite to what it's difficult because they're family and you love them, and but then again, and friends too, and when you have to read sometimes what really, this person feels this way about this? Like, I had no idea. I completely changed my mind about you, like who you are. And I'm trying not to judge people, but some of the things that people say are just outrageous, mm-hmm. And with no backing and no real knowledge, you can just tell that they're just spouting out what they heard on CNN, Fox News. You pick your flavor. And they don't know because they just sit there and watch Fox News or CNN or whatever channel they watch all day, and then they repost it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and then they want their response, and they get the biased response of all the people who feel the same way, and then there's always that one that has to jump in. I'm the one that leaves it alone, obviously, and again, I don't think of myself as the most mature, but I'm like, what is this? What am I going to gain from this? What am I going to gain from even saying anything? No, I'm not changing anyone's mind.
Yeah.
So.
It's like the echo chambers program us.
Right.
Which is what they really do. We create it because it makes us feel good and safe and comfortable in
mm-hmm.
it. because we see more people that are our tribe, if you will. But there are digitals. They're non-existent tribe. You don't know if it's a real person on the side. It could be interacting with a bot, because they do have a lot of that. There's a thing called dead internet theory, where it's like a lot of what's going on the internet's actually just programs and bots doing it, and then you have some of our interactions, and they just basically program themselves to us. That's dead internet theory has that. So we're sitting here with our continuous conditioning. So then we get this program because corporations want it. They can sell to it, right? You got My Patriot Supply is one of the people that target conservatives that say, hey, the doomsday's coming, man. Buy your food. Get your bucket of food. This horrible stuff's coming, because fear drives sales, sex drives sales, things like that. You got the high exciters to get people going. Then you sit there in this, I'm checking into social media, I'm on the toilet, may as well check on something. I'm not reading the Bible on the toilet anymore. Sell the newspaper, So tell me what to think. Tell me how to think. This stuff lines up with my worldviews because you're targeted into your echo chamber. And it feels uncomfortable to get out of that, because you have another tribe waiting on the outside of it that is too far away from your belief. Like, I can't have this person in my world. Get them out of my friends list. So, have you experienced that as well, Ed?
Me? Yeah, because I'm always in the middle. Like, I don't pick sides.
Yeah.
And for example, I was having a conversation with a Muslim person. I'm agnostic, but with a Christian background. So I'm like listening to him, and I'm like, okay, but you haven't doubted anything of what you're saying right now. And I was talking to my other Muslim friend who was like, yeah, I don't understand how he doesn't try to see how that's wrong or right, and try to actually build something for himself, like a relationship with his religion for himself, not something that was built prior to that. And pretty much what I see, that's just the same pattern that we've used for social media as well, or for picking political sides. I'm not gonna second guess. I'm just gonna follow whatever they think it's right, and I think it's right because I was raised this way, or you're not being as inclusive. I'm like, yeah, but does it make sense? Like, have you really looked deep into it to see if it works?
Critical thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at both sides and going, well, maybe there is a reason where there are so many people who look at it this way. I mean, who says that you're the only right one? Maybe there's a lot of right ones, That's kind of what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, my parents were this way, my grandparents were this way, so that's why I'm this way.
Yeah, it's dogmatic traditional thinking, right? But what comes to mind too, and then I definitely want to hear more from you here too, but once upon a time, if you were an American, you were an American. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what your belief system was, as long as you knew you were an American. You could be having a hardship, and somebody else who does not give a damn about anything else, they just care that you're an American, and they're going to come to your aid. They'll give you a cup of sugar, some Kool-Aid, whatever the neighborly thing is that they can do, help you fix your car, whatever. You want somebody to watch your kid while you're gone, I got you. We got this pride about being a unified country. And then we have now, where you have the atrocity that happened when that storm made it up, Helene, made it up to North Carolina, and you have all these people that died from this, and you have this horrible atrocity, and then you've got people in the country that are Americans cheering for it because the majority of those people are Republican. It's no longer you're an American. You're the enemy because the enemy is within.
It's like a civil war.
It is. It's like a cold civil war, right? It's just like one side, and it's this tribalism. But we can liken that back to social media, because we've advanced so far in our technology, we're not mature enough to keep up. We've regressed in our maturity. Because now we have Americans cheering for other Americans dying or going through some of the worst experiences. No home. Your land has been destroyed. You're in a tent because you refuse to give up the land. And you're freezing because it's cold as hell right now.
Or cheering when a president-elect gets shot. I mean,
Yes,
come on.
that is
right.
I mean, I don't care if you like him or not. We never should cheer when someone almost dies.
Yes.
Or dies, like the CEO of United Healthcare.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
These things are, what is maturity when we are when that's happening. I mean, I fear for where our level of maturity is. And these are grown up. These are 60-something-year-old people. These are all ages.
Yep.
That is doing
I don't
this.
agree with your political stance, so I'm going to tear your signs out of your yard. It's your property, but I don't care. I have the right to do it. And then blaming the other person when you drive over their sign and they put nails or screws and a piece of wood on the other side, and then you're mad at them because you're the asshole.
Yeah.
You know, but we got here because we're not able to keep up with our technology. And the people that have the incentive to focus on it, because we don't have the incentive to focus on it, it's a pastime for us. But the people that have the incentive to focus on it are the ones that want to sell the stuff. Yeah, I want you to vote this way, or I want you to buy my product, because you have companies that have political alignment, and they want to support their political positions because they have their agendas associated with it. And we've got this sticking point. So from there, all that connects? It makes sense?
Yes.
So that's what I mean about unethical capitalism. Because you get other stuff that goes into it, but they just want to raise their bottom line. And then they lose the soul of the customer. Because it's just about what the customer can pull the lever and the rat that eats the pellet, right? You know, eat that pellet. I get 5 more because you pulled it once. So, unethical capitalism. So from that, what stands out for you, Ed? Because I know I kind of hijacked that, but it was one of those thoughts that just really hit me hard. Anything in particular as far as the political side when it comes to the social media and how we've got this thing stripping us of our humanity?
People are fighting a battle without knowing what they're fighting for. They think they do, but they haven't sit down and actually look at what's going on. They just want to pick sides because we've perfected our way of hijacking human survival mechanisms. So we've hijacked like, oh yeah, they are the enemy, because there is a concept in marketing in which you gotta create a tribe and you gotta create a common enemy. And that is so easy to do, and it's so effective, and it's worked for all religions in this world. Okay, I believe in Jesus. If they don't believe in Jesus, they should die in the Crusades. If you don't believe in the way of Islam, they should be punished. They are the enemy. Like, they are heathens. They should not be allowed to live the way they want to live. And back in the day, it was you follow this or you die. So we are playing with fire at this point, in which we are dividing people so much, and it can lead to something catastrophic, because we're playing with human nature, and this is something that I think people undermine or undervalue the role of marketing. Like, oh, I'm studying marketing, dude. The marketers are the ones controlling you, and we're being underpaid for that. That's a different conversation. It's just like marketers have perfected the way of how to play with human emotions, human nature, biology, all of that.
Psychology at its finest.
Yeah, and it's not something light. And we haven't. I know you're against regulations, but I've been in this world since I've been exposed to this world since I was a little kid, and I've studied it, and I'm like, we need more regulations when it comes to the internet, because of they do not know how to handle this fire. It's just gonna blow up. It's gonna be a Chernobyl.
I think it's a mix of both regulations, but then also regulations on the part of people, of regulating ourselves, and parents regulating their children. There can only be so many regulations of the actual online content, you know. We can't expect other people to parent our children and to parent ourselves, you know. I mean, even right now, I have to parent myself every day, you know. I have to tell myself what is a good use of my time, what I should be doing. So I get both sides of not wanting regulations, but also wanting regulations, you know. And I do think there needs to be regulations for certain things. You know?
Well, I look at, whenever it comes to that, just for clarity too, is that I look at regulations like medication, right? If you've got pneumonia, I'm sorry, you can't take some leaves and go rub them on your skin and you're going to be better,
Yeah.
right? But you know what though? But medication came from something,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
typically those were herbs, or there was some sort of plant or something that was medicinal that we had discovered through our brilliance and our ancestry to get to that point. But we are so far separated from that now we have whatever medications offer immediately. But if you got water in your lungs, right, you got pneumonia, you need to go and seek the treatment to make you live,
Oh yeah.
and then preventative from there, versus waiting for the next occurrence and you didn't do anything about it to take it again. So when we put certain regulations in, we're telling people you don't need to develop here, just know you can't go there. It's a no-go. It's an illegal act.
Right.
And it comes with consequences. So I'm not against them. It's just we need to be more responsible. We have lawmakers, that's their job. And they go and they make new laws for us all of the time.
That's true.
And you don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You get 13,000 page bills, and then they start attacking whoever doesn't support it.
Yeah.
And then they pick the most excitable emotional aspect about that and saying, well, this is the border security bill, and you're against it. But if you read it, you'd realize it actually had nothing to do with border security. It's just trying to get people in faster.
Right.
So no
And they
regulation.
do that by design.
Exactly.
You know, let's make this 13,000 pages so nobody will want to read it.
Yep.
Because they know that the human attention span is this much right now.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's what allows our politicians to just be able to kind of step in and do more than they should be. They have more power than they should.
Absolutely.
You
And then
know.
they give themselves raises. They have health care that we never will touch.
Yeah.
You know, they have access to so much that we don't have because we have gotten so caught up in just trying to survive that we have let this class become elite. So when it comes to that, I may sound like a libertarian. I'm not. I'm an independent, that's it. I'm an independent registered, that's it on my political side. Everything else is make it make sense, and if it doesn't make sense, and if it does make sense but the outcome keeps turning into something, I probably got fooled. You know, and great intentions turn into horrible things over time as well.
Yeah.
Even good things can become corrupt, and that's where maturity fills the void.
Well, Facebook had great intentions.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, I mean, it was just Mark Zuckerberg's way of, hey, connect with all your college and classmates and stuff. Now look what it is. It's evil marketing towards us, taking our information and passing it and selling it. It's a different, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It has been the thing that you said that I don't want to watch me. I don't want to be observed in every single intimate detail of my life. And now you take this thing with you. It listens to you. The camera can capture you. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This is known stuff now.
No, it's
Right?
proven. Yeah.
So, like, I got an ad for 3-inch heel lift shoes for men to make me look more attractive because so I could be taller. Because the
I just
phone
had a guy tell me that the other day.
The phone was listening to me talk about this. Was it within minutes after I had this conversation, where it's like I have friends that are under 5'10" that do great with women. They are really good dudes, and they stand out. And then you have people believe that if they're taller, this is the conversation.
Right.
If they believe that if they're taller, they'll be more attractive. Next thing I know, I go to pick a video on YouTube that I want to watch. And in that video, the advertisement has some dude walking through a crowd shirtless. All you see is the scapula up in the back of his head. And he's walking by and he sees women watching him as he walks by. And then at the end of it, it tells you it's because of his shoes that it made him taller. I'm like, I'm very good with my height. I'm just over 5'10". I'm good with my height. I have no insecurities there.
The implications on that as fitness professionals too, we cannot be lifting our heels. I mean, that women have learned this with high heels.
Yep, and
You know,
lumbar
this is
issues
why so
and
many
hips
of us
and-
don't do it anymore.
Oh, God.
We don't do it. Now you're telling men to wear heels, basically.
This is not that great either. Like, you used to
You
have
know?
shoes or not that great.
Yeah, even my, But yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's an invasion of your privacy. But we're sitting here going, I don't want my privacy invaded.
Uh-huh.
And then you take that device everywhere and it's listening to you in
Yeah.
every issue, every circumstance. And for the longest time, marketers were telling me, no, your phone does not listen to you.
Yeah.
No, your phone does not turn on the camera. No, your phone is not tracking all of these things. It's just because the algorithm is that intelligent. I'm like,
No.
it can't be that intelligent. I've never selected anything for hair because I have very thick hair. I'm not worried about losing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been getting, and this has been going on since 2020, so 2020, it's been going on where it's advertising hair products for regrowing my hair. I'm like, if you guys were that intelligent, if the system was that smart, it would know that I'm actually good not getting that. You're wasting your money.
Yeah.
Same thing on height. Very confident in my height. I have no issues with it.
Yeah.
That I've got 3-inch heel lifts in my shoes.
Right.
No,
Is an
and it's
option.
not just happening to people under 6 feet. It's also happening to, there's something that with Gen Z and whatever comes after that,
Yeah.
it's height inflation. It's like
Oh, gosh.
you're making 6 people that are 6 feet now short.
Mhm.
It's like, and they're making people that are 5'10" short. And I'm like, this is so out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
Because the U.S. on average is taller than most countries in the
Yeah.
rest of the world. Like the average height in my country is 5'5". I'm slightly
giant.
taller than that.
Yeah, you're a giant.
My son was a basketball player all through high school varsity, and if you were, I mean, basically, he's 6'5" now, but he was 6'4" all the way through high school, and there were guys that called him short.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys would inflate their height by an inch or two, and they were 6'4" and 6'5". It's like,
Here's something too. Have you guys seen where like there's videos out where women are like, well, the guy's got to be over 6 foot. He's got to make more than
Six
six figures.
figures, and
He's
then-
got to be. Like,
and
it's
then
like,
the other 6.
yeah, right. He's got to have.
6'6".
Yeah, right. He's got to be more than 6 inches, right? And then girls
It's
are
such
like,
BS.
right. And then the girls like, so then you get guys going, what do you bring? But
Yeah.
if you think about this, it's brilliant in the way of selling more products because then it creates more relationship issues.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have relationship issues, you're going to find your coping mechanisms.
Yep.
Could be drinking alcohol, could be eating food, it could be drugs, whatever it is. Plus, there's a medication to support it. I'm sure of it.
Or now women are worried about what they bring, so they have eating disorders, and they buy all these things to make them look younger and all that. Like, because now if we're expecting that out of men, what's being expected out of us? So it's just this constant vicious
It's
cycle.
a hijack.
Yeah.
A hijacking of the biological impulse of
Right.
mating.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's
That's-
exploiting that because we're
Right.
not mature enough to realize that one, families are more fulfilling. You know, that if you want to have real fulfillment in life, create something of substance and concrete foundation.
Right.
And what do? We got women that don't want to get along with men, but they're going to continue to date. They've got the women are as good as men in everything, and then the masculine traits, by the way, are what is being identified as women should have masculine traits.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, society values those things, and it's because society is a patriarchy. You got all this political shit that gets piled into it. Then it's like you have no reason to date somebody in a meaningful way because that person's going to be a disappointment to you.
Right.
And this is the continuation of this problem. As long as there's a problem, you're distracted and you're going to spend money. You'll become unhealthy because you can't get that fulfilling experience.
Well, I mean, the birth rates are down, marriage rates are down more than any time in history, and I mean, it can be attributed to how much are we sitting behind this screen, and how much are we looking at social media, but also can be attributed to like what are our heightened expectations, our inflated expectations of the opposite sex. Well, I might as well not even be with anybody then because he can't meet my needs. You know, I mean, it's unfortunate. I've been single almost 5 years now. And I'm seeing it in like the dating world, you know. You see, and you see women and men and what their expectations of other people are. It's like, well, I might as well be single because like I could never be that for you, you know.
Instead of getting to know the person, they show up waiting for them to disappoint them.
Right.
Right? Like guys aren't shit. Men always disappoint me, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to because they have rosters, right?
Yeah.
Like both sides do. How many people do you have in your inbox? You know,
Yeah.
nobody's out to make anything meaningful because you can immediately turn on your phone, go to an app that's tracking you, and you know it knows what they can sell your data for. You know, it's finding it. You're going to tell them.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're like, okay, well, you know, how many dating apps do you use? I use all these different dating apps. I can't find love. Define love.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Can you even tell me what love is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So what
Everyone's
is it?
got a different definition.
It's like marketing to disaster, right? Because if you want to take apart a country, break up the family. Do disincentivize people to have families. Now things happen. I'm not saying that divorces don't happen and they aren't justified. There are definitely times when they are. But right now, find a happy marriage that lasts from the beginning all the way till the day they both die.
My grandparents, that's the only ones I know.
Right. My grandparents.
Until they
Right.
died.
Yeah.
Till he died first, and 2 years later she died. That's the only one I can think of.
And
so.
that's why there's going to be a big push of conservatism.
Mhm.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with Trump, the scale is like tilted the other way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is a good thing because
Could be.
it makes more sense biologically, and in the sense that people are going to start reproducing more, and that's going to be incentivized more. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
2016, I voted for Biden. This year, I voted for Trump, and it's
21.
just what made sense to me. I'm like, we're going with this way in which we're pretty much creating kids, because we're creating them, manually creating them, kids that cannot reproduce, cannot develop fully as humans, and you're pretty much making them not able to feel anything.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, not to mention we're going to be a world full of robots soon
Yeah.
as well. So our need for even having children, we didn't even get into the AI conversation. Perhaps we could do that on another episode since we're
Yeah.
out of time. But I mean, seriously, what's going to come out of that?
Yeah.
You know?
Have you watched the movie Children of Men?
No.
No.
Great movie, by the way. And it's eerie because of what it looks like what our trajectory is in. Because we do have families now sterilizing their children out of the name of an ideology they believe their kids are justified for having, because can't get a tattoo, can't buy alcohol, can't get cigarettes, but you can tell us things about your long term because somebody else got a chance to influence you when the parents weren't paying attention. Or
Wow.
the posh approach. It used to be a Yorkie, it used to be toy poodles, it used to be all these things, now it's a, trans kid. You
Yeah.
know, and it's like popular movement, I'm going to put my lineage on the line. Oh, puberty blockers are reversible.
Wow.
God, please help us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so you got these things that people don't understand, and they're buying into the ideologies, and they're burning out their lineage because it's like they're terminating their genetic line because the kids aren't going to be able to have kids. They're not going to be grandparents or great grandparents.
Yeah.
They're ruining that timeline because of their ideology that's taking over.
I mean,
The
it may
children
very
of
well
men.
be the end of the species. You know.
It could, right?
I
And
mean, we
have-
don't. I know that sounds very far fetched, but I mean, if you think about it,
If it
I mean,
continues that
birth
trajectory.
rates are down, and if marriage rates are down, of course the birth rates are down. And then as we make more robots to do what humans can do, why would we have more humans? You know,
Yeah.
there's going to be a
Terminate the
lot of
outcome.
factors that keep us from needing more humans here.
Yeah.
So.
Terminate the outcome of a sexual encounter,
Mm-hmm.
right? Get rid of it. You don't need to worry about it. So
Well, you can use AI to have a sexual encounter now.
Yeah, right.
You know, I
Yep.
mean-
He's a robot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
You
can
know,
put
the
your
robot.
headset on and have sex with
It-
someone.
If you've never had, and we'll close here in just a minute too, but if you've never had a sexual encounter with another person, and then you have a sexual, so you just want to have that feeling satisfied because you have that
Yeah.
urge, and then you get something that it's able to touch you in a way that still has some sensation of a human being to a degree, right? It has a physical property enough where you can touch something and feel something that feels like skin or whatever, and it's able to satisfy that urge enough, and you've never had a previous encounter where you can develop intimacy.
You're only gonna want the
then
robot.
you're not going to deal with the hardships of a relationship.
Right.
Because you don't know the
You could
benefits
get
of
hurt.
going through it. You can get hurt, right? You don't have to worry about that anymore. Your robot's not going
Right.
to cheat on you.
No.
It might kill you in your sleep, but it won't cheat on you, right? Or next thing you know, your robot's banging the robot across the street. You don't know. I mean, who knows? With the
Where
AI,
are we going with this?
right? You just don't know, right? So, if we want to stave this off, what is missing is what we talk about, and that's
Right.
maturity.
Right.
So, with that, yes, AI is a massive conversation. It is one that really we could take on
We
for a long
should
time.
make that just
Because-
one topic of the show.
Absolutely, and I encourage it. We
Yeah.
should definitely do that on the next one that we do, or very soon.
Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and run through the closing on this. But I do want to ask the question to add to the closing, and that is, now that we've talked about this today, and I've asked the question twice, we'll do it a third time. What can we do about this? So, and then anything else in addition you want to add to the closing?
Well, I've been going first, Ed. Do you want to go first? on
Sure.
that? Okay.
What I think is something that also Paul Chek talks about is lead by example. Lead by example is you got to start living that way, and people are going to start asking questions. Why you're doing this, and why do you seem that you are, put together, and why you're happy? Because most people that are not following who they are and have not developed the mature eye, they are not going to be happy. They're going to be
Right.
following whatever they're following right now, and they're gonna fall into depression. They're not gonna know how to deal with strong emotions, and they're gonna pick sides just because they want to be part of something. It's just build that mature eye and lead by example, and people are gonna start following you. It's you don't know. This is something I was thinking last night. You don't know the positive effect you have on people until you start having that positive effect on yourself.
Right.
So that's the first step, and it's more like whoever's listening to this. It's more of don't try to change your brother. Don't try to change your mom. Change yourself first, and then the other ones are gonna follow. That's what I think.
You almost hit my same answer there. I mean, I noticed that when I started changing, 15 years ago, and I went online and just started showing my own journey of my own fitness and my own health changes with my having a really debilitating autoimmune disease, and I just started sharing all of my changes, and now I'm a completely different person than 10 years ago, and people see that, and now people reach out to me and they say, hey, can you help me with this? I saw that video 7 years ago of you do. People are watching. They really are watching. So if we keep doing this, talking about it, reacting to other things that might be happening in society, like AI and social media, and reacting to it in a way that we talk about maturity, posting the videos, that's what we can do about it. That's what we can do. We may not be able to do anything on a huge, large scale, but,
Yeah. You never know what the ripple turns into, right? Ripples to tidal waves.
Absolutely.
Right? So something that's for me is like see the change, be the change. See it in your mind and then be it in reality. Right. So, and I'm hearing that from both of you too, is that the best way to really encourage people is to be the thing that you want to see in the world. Like I say in dating, don't wait for the one, be the one. Same thing in every aspect. Be the cavalry ain't coming because it's you. Are you coming? Because if you're coming, the cavalry is, but it ain't coming for you. It's you. So what we can do is, one, we talked about some stuff. We had 3 minds come together about some things, and to me, it's been very illuminating.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's shined a light in different areas that we typically either were caught up in thinking somewhere else, or we just don't have the background to actually come to that conclusion yet until we exchange these kind of conversations and ideas. So maturing requires that we go through what we're going through, right? Like, and be okay with the fact we're going to make mistakes along the way. But that mistake primes us for tomorrow's decisions. And that's where change is occurring. So let's not hide from anything, right? Put it out there. It's okay to make mistakes. And don't always try to look good about everything. You'll look better because you'll become better.
Right.
So going back to the beauty standards. Like, look, Angelina Jolie. Well, who was before her? She was inspired by somebody, but there's never been an Angelina Jolie.
Right.
She's the first. Demi Moore, who was before her? Other people were like her, but nobody was her.
Right.
They
have their own uniqueness.
Yes.
And beauty, standards of beauty are changing over the years. What we thought was beautiful in our 20s, and is not what people in their 20s think is beautiful anymore.
Right. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who was before him? There was other bodybuilders.
Right.
There was no Arnold. He was the first.
Right.
But there was other bodybuilders. There's Atlas. He's great. He's not Arnold. We have plenty of beautiful people. You go to the arts, singers. Take Bob Dylan and have him sing opera. It's not going to work. He found himself where he needed to find himself. So to go to the beauty standards, bring out the greatest version of you. Because the world doesn't want copycats. It wants your uniqueness. Now, I'm not saying that if you're overweight and you struggle to lose weight, you shouldn't try to lose weight, because we all know it's healthy to lose weight.
Right.
But in what fashion do you lose it? So everything needs you to be you in order for us to be able to develop as a species. And that is that you need to mature into your greater self. So you guys are fantastic. And I appreciate it. And we've really come up with some great stuff. We've got eco chambers, right? We've got broken systems, right? We've got so much beautiful stuff. By the way, not to take anything away that you've mentioned as well, but those two stand out. They
do. I love it.
So well, because now they become tools that we can actually build into.
Absolutely.
Something.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Yeah.
I'm not great with compliments.
Yeah. Well, you did fantastic. You had some great ideas today.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where could we find you at if somebody wanted to get in touch with you specifically, Ed?
So it would be my Instagram, my name, Edward Moran, and then just add an N at the end. So EdwardMorann.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll put that in the description as well. So we'll just send a link to it. I can get them the link, and they can go over and check you out. Misty, how can we find you?
On all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and also LinkedIn, I am Misti Coaches. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
And there'll be a link in the description as well. So
Okay.
have you send that over to me before we publish. Okay, and of course, I'm Chad Everett Broshears, the host of the Maturity Project. You guys have been fantastic, and I love you guys for everything you are and everything you're not, right? Because it's perfect as you are, right?
Thank
and
you.
we're all up for growth.
Thank
Now, as the Maturity Project, now share this video with the person in your life you want to make a meaningful conversation with. If you want to make a change that lasts, enroll people that can be supportive. If you're out and do it in silence, problem is people get really used to the patterns they knew you by, and then they will likely try to get you where they knew you to be more comfortable, confident, and happy when you're going through the challenges of change. So if you enroll them, they understand what you're up to, and they can be supportive enough that at least they're not a crab in a bucket pulling you back down. So with that, thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you liked anything from today's conversation, yeah, get out of the subscription, subscribe to it, like the video, as you know, the algorithms and all of that fun stuff. Comment helps the community. So if you comment on it, it is going to help the community. I could share this video far and wide. We're growing, we're failing up, and we're failing forward. So as you can tell, I'm doing everything I can to get better at this, and I love the fact that I've got patience amongst my guests and them being the part that they are in this, and you are a part as well. So thank you so much for today, for being on this video and watching it, and for you guys for being guests.
Thank you. Thanks
you.
for having me.
So remember, we grow through what we go through. Yesterday's failures can be tomorrow's success. So with that, we'll get up to something. We're all going to get up to it together. So let's go.